Hello everyone and welcome to Formative Assessment. Because formative assessment is so important and because I think your chapter was a little bit abstract, I wanted to create a video that went over some of the terms and operationalized them so that you could see actual examples of what this looks like in a classroom. The way that the chapter came across to me on formative assessment was a little like love. Well, love to me might mean someone bringing me chocolates and candy bars. Love to someone else might be someone taking them dancing or mopping the floor, cleaning the car, because love takes lots of forms. Well, so does formative assessment. And because Popham doesn't give you lots of examples, it's a little bit mushy. And for me, reading it I've got the general idea, but it was really foggy. And so I felt like I needed something to help clarify. So that's what this video is intended to do. First, I like to start with a cartoon that illustrates what I think is the problem with the way we approach assessment and education sometimes. And in this cartoon, two boys are talking, and one boy says, I thought I taught Stripe how to whistle. The other boy says, I don't hear any whistling. The first boy says, well, I said I taught him. I didn't say he learned it. Well, the way I started teaching was sort of like that. I would teach kids stuff, and then I'd invent some assessment, give it to them, hope something stuck, and then deliver grades. Another thing I'd like to share with you as we talk about what formative assessment is this definition. We use the general term assessment to refer to all those activities undertaken by teachers and by their students in assessing themselves that provide information to be used as feedback to modify teaching and learning activities. Such assessment becomes formative assessment when the evidence is actually used to adapt the teaching to meet student needs. That's the crucial bit, that you put formal assessment in place before you do anything else. It's strategic. It's building toward a bigger task. And it gives you places to stop and monitor. Not necessarily grade, but stop and monitor. And it's strategic and pre-planned. One of the distinctions that Popham makes that I think is very useful is the difference between assessing of learning and the assessing for learning. There's a really different feel to those two statements. Assessing of learning, notice, pays attention to products, to what students end up with, to being able to assess and give a grade. Assessment for learning is assessment on the way, en route. Say I am flying my little airplane from South Dakota to Florida. There's certain points at which I've got the whole thing mapped out first. I don't just set out and hope I get there. I've got my destination in place and I'm setting my course for that destination, but all the while I've got to double check to make sure that I'm still on course. That's what formative assessment is. It's knowing where you're going, it's having your destination first, and having periodic checks. And in that way, it is process-oriented. It is all about what is going on and what corrections you need to make along the way to get to where you're going. The next thing I want to share with you is Popham's learning progression, because I think that's actually something you can use in your classrooms. And so I'm going to put it here in the video and talk about it a little bit because I think he was a little bit vague. So say we have a target or curricular aim, and let's just say that that target or curricular aim, and that's the thing at the top of your screen, is that you want students to be able to play basketball. It's that easy. Well, notice those pieces that are underneath that square. Those are the supporting pieces, because we don't just play basketball. There's things that you have to be able to know and do before you can play a game. And these work bottom up. So there on the bottom are what Popham calls enabling knowledge. That's what you need to know. You need to know what a basketball is. You need to know what the rules are. You need to know how to handle the ball in your hands. Notice that just above that are what Popham calls subskills. Subskills, think of those as things you have to be able to do. So you have to be able to dribble, and you have to be able to throw the ball, and you have to be able to dunk it. You have to have some sort of aim before you can play the game. So the game is the big culminating activity, but there's a lot of knowing and doing down there below. Let me show you a content area example to help you understand what that looks like in the learning progression. Say that you want students to, and this is right out of the core, write arguments to support claims with clear reasons and relevant evidence. Well, if you teach English language arts, you've probably done that one. And if you're literacy across the curriculum, you might have done that one too. But notice that this grows bottom up. First of all, students need to have some knowledge before they can do that big complex task, which is writing an argument with supporting information. That's really complex if you think about it. And what students just need to know, they need to know what an argument is. They need to know what the pieces are. They need to know some of the tactics they can use. They need to know what counts as reasonable evidence. That's knowledge. That's just the knowledge. And then there's the stuff they need to be able to do with the knowledge, which is even more complex, which is how do you evaluate a source? How do you integrate a source? How do you elaborate on an argument? And how do you draw a conclusion? Those are all really big things to do in and of themselves. So if I'm formatively oriented, I'm more interested in the process of that than assigning the grade. I'm going to want students to be able to do multiple drafts. I'm going to want to look for pieces of evidence, and I'm going to be wanting to talk to students about what they've got so far, where they can go, and how they think they can get there. And that's one of the insights of your chapter, is that this idea Popham gives you, that real formative assessment draws the student into the evaluation process. So it's not just you marking a grade on it, it's observing the process, drawing conclusions about it, maybe not with giving that grade so soon. So I'm hoping that this week that you can give some examples of your own learning progressions and how you map those things out in your head, because I'm pretty sure all of you use some form of formative assessment. And I want to leave you with this idea that, and this is by Harlan, it takes a good deal of support and courage for teachers to turn around their practices from being test-oriented to being learning-oriented. That's true. Easy to give a test, not easy to monitor a process and guide students strategically to different parts of that process so they can do a big, authentic, multi-flavored task. I look forward to your thinking this week.